All right, thank you for joining us here today, everybody. It's very good to have you all here. We'll begin things with a few statements from Ross and from John, and then we'll get into a Q&A portion. So I'll just turn things over here to Ross.
All right, welcome everyone with a very special welcome to the Schneider family. And Jess, Gunnar, and Grayson, very good to see you here. Thanks for being here. We're obviously very, very pleased to be at this day that we're announcing John Schneider is the 14th manager of the Toronto Blue Jays and taking that interim title off. Over the course of time, not just over the course of the last couple of months, John has truly earned the respect and the trust of all of us here. I think most importantly of the front office, most importantly the staff and players, and he certainly earned it of the front office as well. A lot of things stand out about John to us. I could go on and on about the attributes, and there's a lot of words that come to mind. And the one that I think about as I work with him and have worked with him, and I watch how he works with others is, it's one thing to support people. It's another thing to make people feel supported. He authentically does that in a way that I think is exceptional. That combined with his baseball acumen, his baseball expertise and experiences, and then thinking about the fact that he's been here for 20 plus years as a Toronto Blue Jay, to have him as the leader of an already very cohesive group gives me a great deal, and us, a great deal of confidence that this organization is going to continue in a very positive direction in bringing championships back to this country. So before I turn it over to John Schneider, the 14th manager of the Toronto Blue Jays.
Number was a coincidence, too.
Nice. We'll see if we can do this better than some of our players do with the home run jacket. Oh,
Feel like them.
almost.
Almost, yeah. Good fit. Thanks, man.
Congratulations.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Go hat. Feel right at home. Wow, where to begin? Thank you, Ross. Thank you, Mark. Thank you to the Rogers Corporation for this unbelievable opportunity. This is basically, I've said it before, this is a dream scenario for me. Over 20 years with this organization. There are so many people that have kind of helped me to get to this point. My family, obviously, Jesse and the boys, Gunnar and Grayson. My parents, Kath and Dave, and my brothers, Matt and Kev, who aren't here. But from them to coaches, teammates, staff, up and down the minor leagues and here in the big leagues, couldn't ask for a better situation to be in. This organization has made me feel like a family member since day one. We absolutely have, fallen in love with the city here, love being here, and I'm just extremely humbled and honored to lead this group and hopefully just achieve our goal of winning World Series here. So, thank you, and it's going to be a fun ride.
With that, if you've got questions for John or Ross, just raise your hands and we'll get you a microphone. And just as you're about to ask your question, just address who you'd like to answer it. So we'll begin here with Keegan.
All right, first for John. John, congratulations.
Thanks,
when
Keith.
you look at 20 years in this organization, when was it? What stage, what era of your career as a player or a coach did you start to think of a day like this or managing a big league club?
This is going to sound weird, but kind of right when I started coaching. This is when I turned the page from a very mediocre playing career to coaching in the minor leagues. It was this was kind of the end goal. Now, understanding that it may not happen with the organization I was working with, but I think it makes it that much more special to be sitting here with this hat, with this jersey on. That was kind of the goal, knowing, to start coaching early to hopefully get to this point. So to kind of be here now is pretty cool.
And when you think back about that transition to coaching, was that your idea? Was that someone pulled you aside? That's long ago, of course, but connecting to today.
Yeah, it was a little bit of both. I think there was something I knew I wanted to pursue. I love being around the game. I love understanding people within the game, and I think that kind of sparked my interest into the coaching aspect and trying to help others. There were a few people that kind of suggested it may be a good fit for me. Dick Scott being one of them, who was the farm director at the time. So it kind of made sense to turn the page, and evolved along the way, learned a lot along the way, and ultimately here I am.
Next is John.
I've got two questions. The first is for John. First of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
Obviously, you've been with the organization for a while, but you're going to be starting the season as manager. What changes, if any, will you be making to the day-to-day of the Toronto Blue Jays?
There's things that I think you're always trying to get better, and you're always trying to evolve and tweak things, whether it's the way you get prepared for a game, the way you communicate with players, the way you communicate with staff. It's been really fun over the last week or so to talk with Ross and the front office group and how we're going to try to approach that and the things we're going to put in place to try to make our whole process better. So there's a lot of different things. I think it's a talented group. You have to recognize that. But it's just being aware of what our strengths are and what our areas of opportunities are just in the off season and hit the ground running in spring.
My second question is for Ross. Ross, what was this negotiation process like for the front office?
Well, the negotiation process with John Schneider is not something that I would get into the details of out of respect for him and others. But the actual process was powerful, of having the exchange to talk about where the opportunities are, where the alignment is or potentially isn't. We felt that working through that in a respectful and thorough way was best with the magnitude of the decision for the organization and also best for John.
Greg?
John, you guys are kind of in a unique spot where you're returning a big chunk of this year's team into next year. After making the postseason but coming up a little bit short, why do you think you guys did come up short, and where do you think that you guys can get better with this core that's already in place?
Yeah, it was really encouraging, I think, the last month or so. I said that as the season went on, how close this group got and how comfortable they became around one another just in the clubhouse and on the field. So that's something to definitely build on. And in terms of, coming up short, it's extremely difficult to be the last team out of 30 standing. And you're going to be disappointed if you're not every year. Certain things and I think certain experiences that both players, staff, everyone went through this season, with the postseason included, will help us get better for next year. And when you're talking about a young core group that is, won together before and that is hungry to do more of it, as bad as an ending is when you don't win, I think it's really good going forward for the next year.
You've been around this coaching staff for a while now. What are your thoughts on that group, and are you expecting to bring everybody back, or what are your plans with the staff?
Yeah, the coaching staff, it's very unique where we've been around each other for a long period of time. It was a very cohesive unit. We've all spoken recently, and we're still working through everything. And I think Ross can probably speak to it a little bit, but I think that's the expectation. Is hopefully everyone is back in some capacity.
Caitlin?
Hi, John.
Hey.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Just wanted to ask you, have you had a chance to share the news with players, and what has their kind of reaction been to you coming back full time, I guess?
Yeah, I called a few last night, a few handful of guys. Their reactions were great. It's cool to have those conversations with guys that you know and you trust. They were very excited for me, just about as excited as I am to be, leading them and the rest of the group. So it's cool that some of them are, they're like family to me. They could be sitting right there with my other two boys. So those conversations were special. I'm going to remember them for a long time, and their reaction was great.
And just kind of related to that, I know when you took over, communication was a big thing for you, having direct conversations with players and group conversations with players. I just wondered, how that came to be in terms of your manager style. Did you learn it along the way, or what helps you be such a good communicator?
I think that's me in general off the field as well. I try to talk things out. I think Jess can sit there and laugh at that too, but sometimes to a fault. But that's kind of what I seemed, it seemed to work for me as I came up the ranks. Players responded to it, and you have to evolve a little bit as you go. So I've always been kind of an open book, whether it's a good conversation, tough conversation. I think having the conversation is really important, and more times than not, players really appreciate that.
Go to Ben.
Hey, John, congrats.
Thanks, Ben.
Ross spoke about this a little bit. I'm just wondering what it was like from your perspective over the course of the last couple of weeks as you were discussing what it would be like to become the permanent manager. What were those discussions like from your standpoint?
Excitement for me, this is, I said it a couple of months ago. I mean, this is the place that I've always wanted to be. With this group of front office, with the players, with the staff, this is a very unique opportunity and one that I'm not taking lightly. So conversations were excitement, but at the same time, understanding the magnitude of it and understanding how hard it is to be sitting here right now and everything that goes into it, respecting the thoroughness of it. But just the one thing that sticks out is just excitement, I think, and mutual interest in me sitting here.
And there's obviously lots of reason to be excited at this point with the roster that's in place, but I'm wondering, what do you see as the biggest challenges for yourself in this role as you move ahead here?
There's always going to be challenges. I think it's, you're trying to identify areas that we can get better, whether it's, at the plate, on the mound, in the field, or on the bases. And when you step back and look at the year that we had, it's easy to see some areas for us to get better. It's just tackling those head on. Challenges are going to come every day, whether it's an opponent or whether it's what you're trying to get better at. So it's something that I'm looking forward to, the staff's looking forward to, and you got to meet it head on.
And Mitch.
Hey, John, congrats.
Hey, thank you.
I think just first off, when you look back at kind of your 15 years of coaching, how do you feel like you've kind of grown the most, or where has your biggest growth over that time come?
For one, understanding how hard the game is and how good the players are, having empathy for them, and understanding that mistakes are going to happen. I remember when I was younger and starting out as a coach, you wanted to win every game and you wanted to be the loudest one and show everyone that you're in charge. And as you go, you kind of figure out that it's not always the best. It's not always the best thing to try to run your same best players out every day, or try to yell a little bit louder if they're not understanding or making adjustments. So having empathy for the difficulty of the game, understanding the person, not just the player, I think is a big thing, and always keeping them kind of in the forefront of what you're trying to do.
And in these last few hours and days, when you found out you were going to be manager and it kind of became public, was there anyone who reached out to you that was like a particular meaningful reach out?
Oh man, a lot. I haven't checked my phone. My college coach reached out, Jim Sherman, which was cool. A lot of different former teammates, a lot of different staff members that I've crossed paths with other organizations, with the Blue Jay organization. It's been a lot, and it's been overwhelming excitement and support from a lot of different people. So pretty thankful for that.
Go to Shy. To your right.
John,
What's up, Shai?
congrats.
Thank you.
Just to follow up a little bit on the discussions over the past couple of weeks, you guys were obviously thrown in a situation where you had to make things work. I'm just wondering how much of the discussions over the past couple of weeks were on sort of looking back at what you did versus casting forward to what you guys want to do and how you want the relationship to work moving forward.
I think a little bit of both. You get so locked into trying to win every night in a pretty unique circumstance, taking over middle of the season. We had brief discussions about things we think we can get better at, and I think those really shifted when the season was over to, okay, how are we really going to tackle this? And looking back and seeing areas that we did improve at from a preparation standpoint, performance standpoint, but also areas where we can kind of tighten it up. So I think, having open conversations with Ross and hearing his feedback and input, and him hearing mine from sometimes a different vantage point, and then arriving at a place where we think is best for the team and for the organization. So that's kind of where it shifted from trying to win tonight to trying to win for the future for a lot of years in a row.
And Ross, similarly, last time when you hired Charlie, there was obviously a long process and lots of interviews involved. How, beyond the obvious, how did this process differ in terms of you trying to get to a decision on this?
Yeah, I think the circumstance is entirely different. Over the course of the last, I believe it's been, less than 2 weeks, 13 days, I believe, since the last day of the season to where we are today. And John summarized our interactions very well. We had, the opportunity to have that without much downside. And thinking about the rigors of trying to win on a daily basis, the stress that creates, the emotion that's involved. We spent virtually, very, very little time, if time at all, on thinking about days after the season. All of our energy was deployed towards winning each night, and so to be able to pull back and think about things from a bigger lens perspective was very helpful for us, and felt productive for John as well.
Can you give an example of what that thinking, specific examples of what that thinking about things from a broader lens might look like?
I'd love for today to be about John Schneider and how excited we are about him, and I would love to drill down on that with you in maybe a different setting. I'm just so excited about getting here today for John Schneider and what it means for the organization moving forward. But one example is, I think in the way that I described it, all of our interactions were about how are we going to win tonight, and I think John summarized it exceptionally well by saying how are we going to win for years to come where this is sustainable, and what's the difference in thinking about that?
Right, Keegan?
Hey, John, these last few years, of course, you've been part of the day-to-day game meetings, but I'm curious what your experience has been with the interaction between front office and manager when it comes to daily game planning, and what you've learned about balancing that between the more human or managerial decisions you're making in-game.
Yeah, sure. Great question. I've learned a ton in the last 3 months and a ton in the last 3.5 years, or 4 years being up here. And it is a very cool dynamic to have, the platform to give your opinion and speak your mind from a, hey, this is how I'm feeling in the dugout, and understanding how objective numbers may line up with certain strategies, and also understanding, that you're dealing with people. And it's been a very, very cool back and forth from not only Ross, but I think everyone that's involved from the front office, hearing us hearing them, and learning from each other along the way. It makes decisions in the moment a lot easier. It makes decisions in the moment a lot slower, and you feel comfortable about the ones that you are making.
And for Ross, if I could, Ross, when you look at John as a manager, speaking about just on the field, the game itself, what do you like about the style of baseball he manages? What ideas do you align on when it comes to the game?
I think we've talked about this a lot, and I think one of the many attractive things about John is how prepared he is that allows him to be agile in a game. So there's so much work done prior to think about all the different hypotheticals. You can't possibly think about every one of them. We certainly try to. When we have the opportunity, we're always drilling down and try to take 3 and 4 steps beyond what's already been thought about. But agility is huge, and being able to rely on experiences and ultimately trust your process to make decisions in the moment has to be there. And it was evident to us that he was prepared to have that confidence to be agile.
Okay, well, again, congrats, John, and we appreciate you all joining us here today.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thanks, everyone.